What would happen if the Earth suddenly stopped spinning? Would we all just fly off into space, or would something else happen first? I have some good news and some very, very bad news. The good news is that you wouldn't fly off into space. The bad news is that what would actually happen is so much worse that flying into space would seem like a pleasant vacation by comparison. Let's start with the basics. Right now, as you're sitting there watching this video, you're traveling at about 1,000 miles per hour. You don't feel it because everything around you is moving at the same speed. But if you're anywhere near the equator, you're absolutely screaming through space. The Earth's surface at the equator moves at roughly 1,670 kilometers per hour relative to the planet's axis. That's faster than the speed of sound. Now, here's where things get interesting. If the Earth suddenly stopped spinning, you wouldn't stop with it. Neither would your house, your car, the atmosphere, or the oceans. Everything that isn't bolted directly to the Earth's bedrock would continue moving at that same incredible speed. It's like being in a car that hits a brick wall at 1,000 miles per hour, except the entire planet is the car, and physics is the brick wall. At the equator, the results would be instantaneous and catastrophic. Supersonic winds would sweep across the surface as the atmosphere continued its eastward journey. These wouldn't be hurricane force winds, they would be winds moving at nearly 5 times hurricane strength. Buildings wouldn't just collapse. They would be atomized and scattered across continents. The flying debris alone would pulverize almost everything in its path. But here's something fascinating. The closer you get to the poles, the slower the Earth's surface is actually moving. If you happen to be standing within about 7 miles of either the North or South Pole when this happened, you might just stumble forward at walking speed instead of being launched like a human cannonball. Unfortunately, most of us don't live at research stations in Antarctica. The oceans would fare even worse than the land. Picture every drop of water on Earth suddenly becoming a projectile moving at supersonic speed. The resulting tsunamis wouldn't be waves. They would be walls of water traveling faster than commercial aircraft. Every western coastline on the planet would face the largest storm surge in the history of the world, reaching potentially hundreds of miles inland. Meanwhile, something even stranger would be happening to the shape of the Earth itself. Our planet isn't actually a perfect sphere. It's wider at the equator because of something called centrifugal force, the same force that pushes you against the car door when you take a sharp turn. Without rotation, that equatorial bulge would start to disappear, and all that extra water that's been held in place around the middle of the Earth would begin rushing toward the poles. We're talking about a complete redistribution of the world's oceans. Computer models suggest that the Earth would end up with one giant band of land circling the equator, separating 2 massive polar oceans. The geography of our planet would be fundamentally rewritten in a matter of hours. But the immediate destruction from wind and water would only be the beginning. Without the Earth's rotation, our magnetic field would start to weaken and decay. This magnetic field is what protects us from deadly solar radiation and cosmic rays. As it failed, the planet's surface would become increasingly hostile to life. And then there's the question of day and night. The Earth would still be orbiting the sun, but each day would last 6 months, followed by 6 months of night. The temperature extremes would be unlike anything our planet has ever experienced. During those 6-month days, the sun-facing side of Earth would bake under relentless solar radiation. Without the moderating effect of day-night cycles, temperatures would climb far beyond what any ecosystem could tolerate. We're talking about surface temperatures that would make Death Valley look like a pleasant spring morning. On the flip side, the night-facing hemisphere would plunge into a darkness so complete and cold that it would make Antarctica's winter seem tropical. Without sunlight for half a year at a time, temperatures would drop to levels that would freeze the atmosphere itself in some regions. Any remaining water vapor would crystallize and fall as snow, leaving behind a landscape more barren than the surface of Mars. But here's where things get really weird. The atmospheric chaos wouldn't end with those initial supersonic winds. Earth's rotation is what drives the Coriolis effect, the force that creates our familiar weather patterns, hurricanes, and ocean currents. Without it, the entire climate system would collapse into something completely alien. The jet streams that carry weather around the globe would vanish. The trade winds that have shaped human civilization for thousands of years would disappear. Ocean currents like the Gulf Stream, which keeps Europe warm despite its northern latitude, would cease to exist. The planet's entire heat distribution system would break down. What would replace it is almost impossible to predict, but computer simulations suggest something like massive convection cells stretching from the scorching day side to the frozen night side. Imagine continent-sized storms that never end, carrying superheated air from one hemisphere to the other in a desperate attempt to balance temperatures that can never truly be balanced. The survivors, if there were any, would face a world that operates by completely different rules. Those research stations near the poles that might have avoided the initial catastrophe would find themselves in an environment that changes by the hour. As the Earth continues its orbit around the Sun, these locations would slowly drift between the day and night sides over the course of a year. Picture this. You're at one of these polar research stations, and over the course of several months, you watch the sun gradually climb higher and higher in the sky until it's directly overhead, baking everything around you. Then, just as slowly, it begins to set, ushering in a night that will last for months. It would be like living through the world's most extreme seasonal cycle, except compressed into a nightmarish version of what seasons used to mean. The psychological effects on any survivors would be staggering. Humans evolved with a 24-hour circadian rhythm. Our sleep cycles, hormone production, and mental health are all tied to the regular alternation of day and night. 6 months of continuous daylight followed by 6 months of darkness would completely destroy these natural rhythms. Plants and animals would face an even worse fate. Photosynthesis requires a delicate balance of light and temperature. The extreme conditions would kill virtually all plant life, collapsing food chains from the bottom up. Even the hardiest extremophile bacteria would struggle to survive in an environment that swings between furnace-like heat and absolute cold. Yet somehow, in this devastated world, there might still be pockets of hope. So there you have it, Sarah. If the Earth suddenly stopped spinning, you'd face supersonic winds, continent-reshaping tsunamis, a collapsing magnetic field, 6-month days and nights, and the complete breakdown of every system that makes our planet habitable. The immediate destruction would be followed by temperature extremes that would make survival nearly impossible, and any remaining life would have to adapt to a world that operates by completely alien rules. The fascinating thing is that this scenario, as catastrophic as it sounds, helps us appreciate just how perfectly balanced our planet really is. That spin you can't even feel is what gives us our 24-hour days, our weather patterns, our magnetic shield, and even the shape of our oceans. It's what makes Earth the vibrant, living world we know, instead of a hellish landscape of extremes. Fortunately, the Earth isn't going to suddenly stop spinning anytime soon. The rotational energy of our planet is so enormous that it would take a cosmic collision of unimaginable scale to bring us to a halt. But scenarios like this remind us that we're living on a dynamic, ever-changing world where the forces we take for granted are actually the very things keeping us alive. What other seemingly impossible scenarios would you like to explore? The universe is full of strange possibilities, and sometimes the most terrifying questions lead to the most fascinating answers.